You know that feeling when you walk back into your house after a long trip and the air just doesn't feel right? That's exactly how it hit me the instant I stepped over the threshold. Back from 3 heavenly weeks of forgetting I even owned a suit in Tulum. I was expecting the familiar, stale comfort of a sealed-up house. Maybe a little pile of junk mail, but instead, I froze, my heart hammering this frantic, erratic rhythm against my ribs, because right there, slashed across the pristine, newly refinished oak floor, was a smear of reddish-brown mud. I mean, a clear, unmistakable boot print. Someone had been inside, and I hadn't invited them. My Samsonite suitcase just clattered to the floor, forgotten as I followed that filthy trail. It snaked past the living room where my wife, Sarah, usually keeps the decorative throw pillows lined up with military precision, and yet they were just off. Nothing was stolen, or at least nothing obvious, but it felt like a violation, a deep, stomach-dropping sense that something private, something sacred, had been utterly disturbed. It was like finding a stranger's fingerprints on your soul, you know? But then I saw it, the ultimate gut punch, a single canary yellow Post-it note stuck right at eye level on the stainless steel fridge. In this ridiculously neat, loopy cursive, it read, "Routine interior compliance check. Everything looks fine." And below that, signed with this utterly infuriating little flourish, was Brenda Albright, HOA Committee Chair. My blood went colder than the ice maker I hadn't refilled. What the actual hell was a routine interior compliance check, and how did it involve the HOA breaking into my locked house while Sarah and I were on a different continent? I'm talking about Hawthorne Heights, a place we paid a premium to live in. A gated community with those perfectly sculpted little evergreen shrubs and the kind of tight, suffocating HOA regulations that supposedly guaranteed peace of mind, right? We bought in for the security, for the promise of a quiet, upscale neighborhood. But of course the price of that peace was Brenda Albright, a woman whose control over the community was less governance and more absolute monarchy. She'd issue fines for grass half an inch too tall, and you never left your trash can out past 7 a.m. on Tuesday or else. I honestly never thought the Queen herself would abuse that power to this extent. My first call was to Jerry, our next-door neighbor, who's supposed to be our emergency contact. I tried to keep the tremor out of my voice. "Hey, Jerry, did you see anyone go inside our place while we were gone?" He paused, a long, telling silence. "Well, not inside, Dan, but I did see Brenda's big white Lexus parked right out front last Wednesday. I just figured she was dropping off one of her famous passive-aggressive notices about pet waste." That was all I needed. I didn't waste another second. I immediately opened up my home security app, scrolled back to last Wednesday, and there she was. Brenda Albright, in her signature blinding pink blazer and those 2 perfectly coiffed blonde curls, striding up my pathway at exactly 3:45 p.m. She glanced over her shoulder. A quick, shifty little move, then pulled out. My jaw locked solid. A key. I watched, stomach churning as she unlocked the door, slipped inside, and disappeared. For a solid 45 minutes, she prowled. The footage showed her dragging a manicured finger across my bookshelves, actually flipping through the stack of bills I'd left on the counter, and yes, opening my damn refrigerator like she was doing an inventory check on my low-carb almond milk. Clipboard clutched in her hand, she was scribbling notes, surveying every corner like a smug, entitled ruler inspecting her least favorite fiefdom. When she finally left, she wore that same superior, little smirk she always had when denying someone's request to, God forbid, paint their mailbox a slightly darker shade of approved gray. My anger boiled over. Quick and hot, a total adrenaline surge. I didn't call the police yet. I drove straight to her house. The one with the hedges trimmed so immaculately they looked fake. And a bronze plaque on the lawn that didn't just say HOA chair, but somehow shouted, "I am in charge of everything." She opened the door, a Stepford smile plastered on her face. "Oh, Danny, you're back!" "How was Tulum?" Her voice was all sugary sweetness, feigning innocence. I didn't bother with the greetings. "Why were you in my house, Brenda?" I demanded. She didn't even flinch. Didn't blush. It was pure stone-cold entitlement.
"Oh, that?"
"It was just a discretionary interior compliance check," she replied, flicking her hand dismissively, like swatting a bothersome gnat. "We do them for all residents who are gone for over 2 weeks. It's for your protection, to ensure no unapproved modifications have been made and that, there's no imminent threat to the community." I stared at her, my pulse pounding a frantic rhythm in my ears. "Really, Brenda?" "Because I'm an attorney, and I read the covenants cover to cover before closing. Where exactly in the Hawthorne Heights bylaws does it state that the committee chair has the right to break into people's homes for a so-called check?" Her smile stiffened, like drying plaster, but she didn't back down. That was the thing about Brenda. She never, ever conceded an inch. "It's an unwritten executive policy," she said coolly, folding her arms across that pink blazer like a general addressing a low-ranking grunt. "As the committee chair, I have certain discretionary oversight to ensure community standards are maintained, especially against those who might be less dedicated to upholding the aesthetic integrity of Hawthorne Heights." That last comment made my stomach drop because I realized this was no random power trip. 2 months ago, I had politely, but very firmly, voted against her proposal to mandate a single approved shade of gray for all driveway sealant. She had been furious. This wasn't a wellness check. This was a fishing expedition, a personal vendetta masked as community protection. Over the next few days, I went completely underground, talking quietly with other homeowners, the ones who always seemed to avoid eye contact with Brenda. The stories I heard were chilling. Several residents admitted they'd noticed minor, unsettling things after long trips, a picture frame slightly tilted, a drawer that felt recently opened, but they'd always dismissed it as exhaustion or forgetfulness. They were too intimidated to confront her. Then poor old Mr. Henderson, who lives 5 doors down and has been fighting her over his solar panels for years, finally opened up. "She came into my house when I was having my hip replacement surgery last year," he confessed, lowering his voice to a terrified whisper. "Said she needed to confirm I hadn't installed any prohibited exterior hardware while I was incapacitated. What was I supposed to do? She threatens people with a $500 fine if their mailbox flag is left up for an hour after the mail arrives." I gathered everything, my security footage, witness statements confirming her obsession with using the emergency key lockbox for unauthorized entry, and, most crucially, highlighted sections of the HOA bylaws proving that the only permissible entries were for active emergencies, a broken pipe, a fire, that sort of thing. The final, damning detail solidified. Brenda had been using these unauthorized visits to dig up dirt, like confirming a resident had an unapproved portable basketball hoop stashed in their garage, or, in my case, finding a box of unapproved outdoor string lights in my coat closet. Petty, vindictive control. The monthly HOA meeting was scheduled for that Thursday night. I filed the official police report for felony breaking and entering at 4 p.m. Then I calmly prepared my presentation. The community center was packed, standing room only, because everyone secretly wanted to see what kind of petty tyranny Brenda would inflict that month. She sat at the center of the long table, gavel in hand, looking like a Roman empress on her throne, radiating control. When the agenda finally turned to new business, I rose. My voice was calm, measured, almost unnervingly steady. "I'd like to address a critically serious security concern regarding unauthorized entry into residents' private property," I announced. Brenda's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing into dangerous little slits. "Mr. Thompson, if this is about your neighbor's excessively tall bird feeder, we'll address that in committee." "No, Brenda," I said, connecting my laptop to the projector. "This is about a far more serious violation." The room fell silent, and then the footage played. Brenda Albright, in her blinding pink blazer, using a key to unlock my door, slipping inside, the camera timestamp clear on the screen. 45 minutes inside, then that smug, self-satisfied grin on the way out. "What you're seeing," I explained evenly, "is our committee chair using a key, taken without authorization from the emergency lockbox, to enter my private residence while I was on vacation. This is not only a gross violation of our HOA bylaws, but a clear violation of state law regarding home invasion and trespass." Brenda's face flushed a deep, alarming crimson. She slammed her gavel down with a deafening crack. This is out of order. These are discretionary compliance checks. They are for community protection." That's when I played the recorded testimony from Mr. Henderson and 2 other homeowners. The unease in the room became palpable. The other board members began shifting uncomfortably in their seats, clearly distancing themselves. "There is no provision for a discretionary compliance check in our bylaws, Brenda," I continued firmly, my voice cutting through the rising murmur. "What is there is a clear rule stating that emergency keys are to be used only for fires, water leaks, or other urgent situations. Nothing else." And then, right on cue, it was like a movie, honestly, 2 uniformed officers quietly entered through the back doors. Brenda saw them, shot to her feet, knocking her expensive executive chair backward. "This is absolutely ridiculous," she shrieked, her perfect composure finally shattering. "I was protecting the integrity of our community. People leave. Windows open, appliances on, they have unapproved items. Someone has to enforce the rules." Her voice rose to a hysterical pitch, and the room fell into stunned silence. "So you admit you've been entering private homes without permission to search for petty violations?" I asked, almost a whisper, leaning into the microphone. She blinked rapidly, realizing too late what she had just publicly confessed to. "Someone has to maintain standards," she wailed. "Do you know what would happen if I didn't? Property values would plummet. People would paint their houses neon orange and put those tacky garden gnomes on their lawns." Her polished facade crumbled into raw, ugly entitlement. Then she jabbed a finger right at me. "And you! Your mailbox number font is a non-approved serif, and your blinds don't match the approved linen white color palette." The officers stepped forward as she spiraled completely out of control. "Mrs. Albright," one of them said firmly, "we need you to come with us. You are being placed under arrest for felony breaking and entering, unlawful trespass, and abuse of authority." Her expression flipped from raging fury to stunned, absolute disbelief as they began reciting her rights. "This is absurd. I'm the HOA chair. I have keys to all your homes. Who's going to make sure everyone follows the rules now?" she screamed as they escorted her out in handcuffs, the queen of Hawthorne Heights, still insisting she was the only thing standing between them and a neighborhood full of tacky lawn ornaments. The entire room just sat there, silent, watching the woman who'd fined them for every minor infraction being led away in disgrace. One of the remaining bewildered board members finally cleared his throat. "I think," he said slowly, "we should call an emergency election for a new chair." The motion passed, quickly and unanimously. 3 months later, Brenda's case went to trial. The judge, bless his soul, was decidedly not impressed by her argument that HOA authorities somehow overrode basic constitutional property rights. She was found guilty of multiple counts of felony breaking and entering, plus trespassing charges from over a dozen other homeowners who finally felt safe enough to come forward after her arrest. Her sentence, 18 months in state prison and a $25,000 fine in restitution. As the gavel came down, Brenda's perfectly composed image finally shattered, for good. "But who will make sure everyone follows the rules?" she sobbed as they led her out of the courtroom. "Who will protect our property values now?" This time, no one bothered to answer. It was a huge victory for the neighborhood and a massive relief for Sarah and me. We got our peace of mind back, but the whole ordeal left me with one big, lingering question. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with an HOA that just went completely rogue? Where do you draw the line between a homeowners association maintaining standards and becoming an outright police state? Was Brenda really just trying to protect property values, or was she simply addicted to the power? Let me know your craziest HOA stories and your thoughts on where the line should be drawn in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe for more true stories like this, and I'll catch you next time.